Hello and welcome to the Business Standard Morning Show. I'm Kanishka Gupta and let's have a look at the stories for the day. There's a race for talent in the Indian IT sector, which is facing a talent crunch for niche digital skills. Services sectors like hospitality and travel and tourism are also dealing with manpower challenges. The services sector's importance cannot be stressed enough because it contributes to more than 50% of the country's GDP. Could the skill shortage run up against recovery in these sectors? We take a reality check and delve into the details.
On Saturday, more than 50% of India's biggest airline, IndiGo's flights were delayed after a large number of cabin crew members reportedly called in sick. They queued up for interviews at Tata Group-owned Air India as well as Jet Airways and Akasa, who are in the midst of a massive recruitment drive. Aviation across the world has been suffering because of a shortage of trained manpower. People laid off by airlines during the pandemic moved to other sectors, especially hospitality. But the shortage of skilled labor is haunting India Inc., particularly the services sector that contributes to more than 50% of the GDP. There's high unemployment, yet companies are struggling to fill in open positions. It's a conundrum created by an acute skill shortage. Workers with experience related to a particular job are hard to come by nowadays. According to a recent Manpower Group Employment Outlook survey, IT and technology employers are exhibiting the strongest hiring intent across 11 sectors for the July-September 2022 quarter. Overall, at 51%, the net employment outlook is at a record high in 8 years. At the same time, organizations are finding it difficult to get the right candidates with the required skill sets for professions ranging from IT and data, sales and marketing, operations and logistics, manufacturing and production, administration and office support skills. The Manpower Group India Managing Director said that reskilling and upskilling the workforce should be the highest priority for employers. Similarly, Rajan Bahadur, CEO of Tourism and Hospitality Skill Council, recently told a Business Daily that the industry is facing a shortage of around 350,000 workers as the business has boomed post the third wave of COVID-19 and operations and working hours have normalized. With new hotels, outlets, restaurant chains, and cloud kitchens opening and expanding aggressively, he says the demand for skilled talent is going up. Further, workers who lost their jobs in the pandemic found work in other sectors and are now reluctant to come back.
And that's where the challenge in few of these industries are facing specifically to travel and tourism, hospitality, aviation. These could be the sectors which will come under those radars. But the shortage is there in IT as well as in media and entertainment also. Now, over 90% of the Indian workforce are in the informal sector. Now, if you look at us as a country, we are trapped in a vicious cycle. Now, greater workforce informality leads to lower incentive to acquire new skills. Now this faced with inadequate skilled workforce, business often choose replacing laborers with machines. Now that becomes skilled laborers and technologies, they are complementary, right? But unskilled laborers and technology, they are substitutes. Now this leads to the skill of fewer formal jobs for people.
We all say India is almost the fifth largest in terms of GDP, right? But in terms of per capita income, we're probably 138th. And that's an indicator of the low productivity level. And hence, that is something which I don't think it has a magic bullet solution. It is a bigger problem which needs to address holistically, keeping the long term in mind. I personally don't believe, like, if an organization, whether it's small or big, whether it's MSME or it's a large organization, I don't think, if they have demand and if they have business, skill will not come in the way. Yes, would they have to pay more to get the desired skill? If they have to, they will do it. But yes, in the long run, it is costing India productivity. It's costing India competitiveness in the World Productivity Index and the rest and the like. So for me, if you're saying that what can be done now to solve the skill problem, which can aid economic recovery, I doubt that there is a magic bullet solution.
Inadequate talent is constraining the recovery of the services sector. According to CII's Decoding Job Report 2022, one of the key reasons for this gap is the insufficient collaboration between the industry and the academia. Educational institutes often fail to provide industry-relevant skills to students. Companies, sector skill councils, and other industry stakeholders should ramp up the development of new talent to fill the skilling gap. Having just emerged from COVID and witnessing green shoots of recovery, India Inc.'s full potential should not be limited by the unavailability of skilled workers.
सब अच्छी दिख रही हैं यार, कौन सी खरीदूं?
ये तो वही बात हुई, 4000 शेयर्स लिस्टेड है, कौन सा लूं?
वो तो सबसे आसान है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर है 4000 स्टॉक्स की रिसर्च, टेक्निकल टूल्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है, investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
While India Inc. is focused on reskilling and upskilling its workforce to deal with manpower challenges, the startup ecosystem is staring at a painful slowdown for a different reason. Fundings have died down. Leading funds and venture capitalists are stepping up scrutiny. With global uncertainties in the backdrop, they are delaying funding rounds for several startups. How are Indian startups going to maneuver this slowdown? Our next report answers.
India saw an unprecedented surge in venture capital investments over the last few years, with 2021 leading the record-breaking funding rounds. However, the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, interest rate hikes, and recession fears led to a funding crunch as investors turned cautious on spending. Indian startups raised a total of $18 billion in venture capital funding in the first half of this calendar year, according to data from Venture Intelligence. Even though the amount raised is higher than the corresponding period last year, there is a clear slowdown on a quarter-on-quarter basis. In the second quarter of 2022, VC investments in startups stood at $6.9 billion, down nearly 60% from $11 billion in the first quarter, Venture Intelligence data shows. The mega deals, that is, investments over $100 million, were also down on both year-on-year and sequential basis. Interestingly, even as late and growth stage startup funding dried up, early stage funding proved to be resilient. Early stage startups raised $856 million in the first quarter of this year, while second quarter funding stood firm at $839 million. When it came to late stage startup funding rounds, the second quarter funding nearly halved to just $1.7 billion compared with $3.3 billion in the first quarter of 2022. With capital flow expected to be muted in the months to come, Indian startups have tightened their belts and resorted to layoffs. According to the Inc.42 layoff tracker, over 11,000 employees were fired in the first 6 months of this year. Even as edtech firms face the heat for the sheer scale and number of layoffs, several unicorn startups like Ola, Blinkit, Vedantu, Cars24 were part of the firing list as well.
When a young founder is given so much capital, you would have to burn that money to be able to raise the next round. And there are two primary verticals where you can spend your money. One is marketing, the other one is manpower. The reason why you can't spend way too much on marketing is because if you did spend hundreds and thousands of crores and you did not get the revenues, then you would not have product market fit. Like, you would quickly realize that what you're building is pointless. So it's way easier to hire as many people as you can and then burn that whatever that capital is. We've overhired for absolutely no reason. I don't think startups require more than 100 people to be able to build a fairly large business to support about 10 million users. Again, I don't see the need for hundreds and thousands of employees, especially the from some of these colleges that people prefer to hire from.
I think you have to stick to your core, stick to what you wanted to do as a company, what are the problems that you're trying to solve. And I think whatever is needed to spend for that, and that would help you grow as a business or create a product or a customer service that would be successful, is always solving for core business problems. So I don't think whether these are good times or bad times, good companies always get funded. Right milestones and right business successes will always get funded, right from consumer engagement to orders to adoption of your product. Consciousness about, is this right spend? And also, I think choosing between vanity spends, like something that makes me look good versus something that really delivers for the business. And I think that's what would happen going forward. All companies were not on insane valuations. Yeah. Therefore, it will remain company to company. It will remain between what investors are bullish about, which companies are reaching the right milestones.
Meanwhile, VC funds and tech investors are urging startups to focus on durable growth and profitability. Sequoia Capital recently made a presentation to its portfolio companies, stressing on generating sustainable cash flows, consistent growth, and disciplined financial management. Another investment firm, Y Combinator, had also sent advisory notes to the founders of its portfolio firms on how to navigate through the current crisis. Abel Joseph, founder and CEO of dating apps maker Aisle, which was recently acquired by InfoEdge, says founders should particularly focus on employee morale as startups downsize their workforce and freeze hiring plans. Nevertheless, startups will have to turn conscious about their marketing spends and hiring practices and learn to live with greater scrutiny. Will the need for being circumspect take the sheen of India's startup story or only enhance it going forward?
क्या हाल?
मत पूछ यार,
फिर से स्टॉक्स में फंस गया।
तो स्टॉक्स के साथ बॉन्ड्स, इंश्योरेंस, गोल्ड में बैलेंस कर।
इसमें बहुत तामझाम है।
तुझे 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा है ऑल इन वन अकाउंट। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है। Investing made easy and rewarding with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
VC funds and tech investors are likely to be hawkish on Indian startups in the near term. Meanwhile, IndiGo Airlines posted one of its first on-time performance over the weekend. While 30% of its flights got delayed on Sunday, nearly 55% got delayed on Saturday due to the non-availability of cabin crew members. Reports suggest the missing cabin crew members had gone for interviews at rival airlines. So, is it another storm set to hit the Indian aviation sector? Should investors be worried? Let's find out in our next report.
Aviation watchdog Directorate General of Civil Aviation has reportedly launched a probe into flight delays faced by budget carrier IndiGo last Saturday. More than half of its flights ran behind schedule. Following the development, shares of the airline fell 4% intraday as investors sensed a possible staff crunch. And IndiGo may not be alone. 3 new players, Air India under its new management, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala's Akasa Air and Jet Airways, are vying for pilots and cabin crew staff. This comes at a time when the incumbent players were trying to gain ground post the coronavirus pandemic.
So it's the beginning of, I think, one of the most competitive and the hostile environment, as we would like to call it, in the Indian aviation space now. Because you are having at least three new players. I think I would call Air India as a new player, largely because it has come under Tata, and Tata is going to revitalize the entire organization. So my reading says that I think Air India is going to be a dominant force. So I think the brunt is going to be felt by the existing players, including IndiGo, the Spice, and the Go and other people. So obviously, I think this is going to be an inevitable situation.
Airline crews, especially pilots, need years of training. Besides, a single aircraft needs an average of 15 crew members. Therefore, even if incumbents or newer airlines decide to hire new crew members, analysts feel ease in talent crunch pressure may be some time away. That apart, the attrition pressure has come at a time when the sector is reeling under record high aviation fuel prices and a weaker rupee.
Like similar to what happened to IT industry at attrition empire and suddenly spiked that killed the opportunity. So similar thing is happening in the aviation industry, and unfortunately this is happening at a time when oil prices are record high level, near record high level. So particularly ATF is at a record high level. So this is definitely going to, and already they, Corona impacted them. Their balance sheet already became very weak.
As per latest financial statements, fuel expenses accounted for nearly 33% of IndiGo's total cost, while it was over 37% for SpiceJet. Employee costs, meanwhile, accounted for up to 9.4% of total expenses. Given this, analysts believe the troika of these factors will lead to aggravated margin pressure for airlines in the near term, some of which may not have been priced in yet. On Tuesday, investors will eye India Services PMI data for June, along with other global cues for market direction.
अब क्या किया?
शेयर्स में ट्रेडिंग।
तुम्हें 5 पैसा नहीं पता?
ओए, अब तो सबको पता है। 5 पैसा पर मिलते हैं रिसर्च टूल्स, पोर्टफोलियो एनालिटिक्स और इन्वेस्टमेंट आइडियाज भी। डाउनलोड 5 पैसा नाउ।
अब तो सबको पता है Investing made easy and reporting with 5 paisa. Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Last month, the Monetary Policy Committee of the RBI increased the repo rate by 50 basis points to 4.90% in an attempt to contain rising inflation. What are the tasks of the 6-member Monetary Policy Committee? Who are its members and what are the processes? Let's introduce you to this high-level body of the central bank.
The Monetary Policy Committee of Reserve Bank of India, which met early last month, voted unanimously to hike rates by 0.5 percentage point. The aim was to bring down the soaring inflation, which has been above the central bank's tolerance level for quite some time. The Monetary Policy Committee is a 6-member panel which sets the repo rate. Repo rate acts as a benchmark for all other interest rates in the economy. Out of the 6 members, 3 are external. They are appointed for a fixed 4-year term. Among the 3 internal members, one is the RBI governor who chairs the committee. RBI's deputy governor in charge of the monetary policy is the second internal member. The third member is one RBI official who is nominated by the Central Board of RBI. The executive director in charge of monetary policy is typically the third member. The 3 external members notified by the Centre on October 5, 2020 are Jayant Verma, Professor IIM Ahmedabad, Ashima Goel, Professor at the Indira Gandhi Institute of Development Research, and Dr. Shashanka Bhire, Senior Advisor at the National Council of Applied Economic Research. According to the amended RBI Act, the MPC is required to meet at least 4 times in a year. The quorum for the meeting of the MPC is 4 members. Each member of the MPC has 1 vote. And in the event of an equality of votes, the governor has a second or casting vote. On the 14th day, the minutes of the proceedings of the MPC are published, which includes the resolution adopted by the MPC, the vote of each member on the resolution, and the statement of each member on the resolution adopted. Once in every 6 months, the RBI is required to publish a document called the Monetary Policy Report to explain the sources of inflation and the forecast of inflation for 6 to 18 months ahead. The primary objective of monetary policy is to maintain price stability while keeping in mind the objective of growth. Price stability is a necessary precondition to sustainable growth. In May 2016, the Reserve Bank of India Act 1934 was amended to provide a statutory basis for the implementation of the flexible inflation targeting framework. The amended RBI Act also provides for the inflation target to be set by the Government of India in consultation with the Reserve Bank once in every 5 years. Accordingly, the central government notified 4% consumer price index inflation as the target for the period from 5th of August 2016 to 31st of March 2021, with the upper tolerance limit of 6% and the lower tolerance limit of 2%. On 31st March 2021, the central government retained the inflation target and the tolerance band for the next 5-year period, 1st April 2021 to 31st March 2026.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.
That is all for today. We will be back with more news and analysis on our next episode. Stay tuned and thank you for watching. If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.